Honestly, sometimes it felt like she was hitting the ball from the frame. Somehow magically the ball lands in the court and you kind of like on the back foot. And
It's hard to believe, but Aryna Sabalenka's entire career might be hanging by a thread right now. And it's not because of an injury, a slump, or even a failed drug test. It's because of what came out of her mouth after losing to Coco Gauff at the French Open. What started as a few shocking words in a post-match press conference has spiraled into something far bigger than anyone expected. We're talking about potential suspensions, massive fines, and the very real possibility that one of the top players in women's tennis could be banned from future tournaments, all over a comment that many say crossed every line of sportsmanship and respect. Multiple formal complaints have now been filed. The WTA has launched an official investigation, and insiders claim this could lead to an unprecedented punishment that changes the trajectory of Sabalenka's career forever. Sponsors are panicking, lawyers are scrambling, and the entire tennis world is watching closely, because if the WTA decides to make an example of her, this could go down as one of the most dramatic falls from grace in modern tennis, not for cheating, not for scandal off the court, but for words spoken in the heat of defeat that she can never take back. What makes this entire situation even more explosive is the moment it all started, that intense French Open final back in June. Coco Gauff, just 21 years old and already carrying the weight of American tennis on her shoulders, walked onto the court against world number one Aryna Sabalenka and turned what many thought would be a routine loss into one of the most iconic comebacks we've seen in recent memory. After dropping a tight first set in a tiebreak, Gauff didn't crumble under pressure. Instead, she elevated her game to a completely different level, storming through the next two sets with a mix of fearless aggression, strategic brilliance, and mental toughness that left the crowd on their feet and Sabalenka visibly rattled. The atmosphere was electric, two of the best players in the world trading jaw-dropping shots, pushing each other to the limit, and proving why women's tennis is entering a golden era. Gauff's victory wasn't just about winning a match. It was about making a statement. She showed the world that she could go toe-to-toe with the very best and come out on top when it mattered most. It should have been a career-defining moment, celebrated for weeks. But instead of the spotlight staying on Gauff's brilliance, it shifted almost immediately to Sabalenka, and not for anything she did on the court, but for what she said after the match that left fans, analysts, and even fellow players in utter disbelief. In the press room, just minutes after that intense battle, Sabalenka sat down in front of dozens of reporters from around the world, and instead of showing grace in defeat or giving credit to the young star who had just outplayed her, she made a comment that would ignite one of the biggest controversies of her career. With full confidence and zero hesitation, Sabalenka claimed that Coco Gauff didn't actually win because she played better. She said Gauff only won because Sabalenka made too many mistakes. Yes, you heard that right. According to Sabalenka, it wasn't Gauff's skill, strategy, or resilience that earned her the trophy. It was Sabalenka's own errors. That one sentence was enough to turn what should have been a simple post-match interview into a global firestorm. It's like losing a race and saying the other runner only won because you tripped, not because they were faster. And the irony is, the match statistics completely destroy Sabalenka's excuse. Gauff committed 40 fewer unforced errors than Sabalenka. 40. That's not just a small difference, that's the sign of a player who stayed composed, played smarter, and forced her opponent into uncomfortable positions over and over again. Those weren't random mistakes. They were the direct result of Gauff's relentless pressure and tactical execution. But instead of acknowledging that reality, Sabalenka rewrote the narrative to protect her ego, and that's where she crossed a line tennis fans and officials couldn't ignore. In a sport built on respect, sportsmanship, and integrity, her words weren't just seen as bad form, they were viewed as an outright insult to Gauff's achievement and a violation of the unwritten code that players at this level are expected to uphold. The reaction to Sabalenka's words was immediate and absolutely brutal. Within minutes, clips of her post-match comments were circulating all over social media, and the backlash came from every corner of the tennis world and beyond. Fans flooded comment sections, accusing her of arrogance and disrespect. Analysts who normally avoid controversy openly criticized her attitude. Even people who don't usually watch tennis chimed in, calling her remarks childish and pathetic. But the harshest criticism came from those who know exactly what it feels like to lose on that stage, former champions and current players who couldn't believe what they were hearing. Many of them said straight up that Sabalenka's comments crossed a line that should never be crossed in professional sports. Because no matter how emotional or frustrated you are, there's one rule that every great competitor understands. You respect your opponent, period. And that's exactly what Sabalenka failed to do. What made it even worse was the way she said it. There was no hesitation, no second guessing, no attempt to walk it back. She said it with complete conviction, as if she truly believed Gauff didn't deserve the win. That level of confidence in such a disrespectful statement shocked people. This wasn't a heat of the moment slip-up during the match. This was a calm, prepared press conference in front of the global media. And when someone doubles down on poor sportsmanship like that, it doesn't just make them look bad, it undermines the entire spirit of the sport. Tennis has always been built on a foundation of respect, tradition, and mutual admiration, even among the fiercest rivals. Sabalenka shattered that expectation in one moment, and fans weren't willing to let it slide. The storm was growing fast, and soon it wasn't just about angry tweets, it was about potential consequences that could reshape her future in the game. After days of intense backlash, Sabalenka finally released what was supposed to be an apology, but instead of fixing the situation, it made things worse. She wrote that both things can be true, claiming she didn't play her best and that Coco earned the title. But fans immediately saw through it. This wasn't heartfelt, it was scripted PR damage control designed to calm sponsors and silence criticism. Real apologies happen in the moment, not 3 days later after the internet explodes. And even then, she's still focused on herself, talking about her performance and the conditions, instead of simply saying Gauff played better. That's not accountability, that's deflection. The timing made it obvious too. Her statement dropped just as media coverage and sponsor pressure were peaking. Instead of calming the outrage, it fueled it even more, with fans calling the apology fake, forced, and far too late. In the end, what could have been a moment of humility turned into another reason for people to question her character. What frustrated fans even more was how quickly the media shifted the spotlight away from Coco Gauff's historic victory and turned the entire conversation into Sabalenka versus the world. Gauff had just pulled off one of the most impressive wins of her career, becoming the first American woman to win the French Open since Serena Williams in 2015. She had dominated the tournament from start to finish, showcasing skill, resilience, and mental strength far beyond her years. But instead of celebrating that moment, nearly every press conference and interview became centered on Sabalenka's disrespectful comments. Reporters kept bringing them up over and over, forcing Coco to answer questions about someone else's bad behavior instead of her own achievement. And yet, Gauff handled it with incredible maturity. She called Sabalenka a tough opponent, refused to engage in the negativity, and kept the focus on her own performance. That kind of composure at just 21 is rare, and it made Sabalenka's behavior look even worse by comparison. The sad truth is, Coco's moment, one she had worked her whole life for, was partially overshadowed by someone else's lack of sportsmanship. And for many fans, that felt deeply unfair. One part of Coco Gauff's story that didn't get nearly enough attention amid all the drama was how much her mindset contributed to that victory. Leading up to the French Open, Coco repeatedly wrote the same phrase to herself: "I want to win. I will win the French Open." It wasn't just a motivational quote, it was a mental training technique inspired by Olympic champion Gabby Thomas, who used the same approach before the Paris Games. For Gauff, it was about building belief from the inside out. At the Grand Slam level, tennis is as much mental as it is physical. You're alone on the court with nowhere to hide, and the battle often happens in your head before it happens with your racket. That belief helped her stay composed after losing the first set, block out the pressure, and fight her way back with total confidence. Most players would have crumbled in that situation, but Coco's mindset kept her locked in and ready to strike. It's proof that her win wasn't just about talent, it was about mental strength, focus, and self-belief. And that makes Sabalenka's comments look even more ridiculous. Because this victory was no accident, Coco prepared for it long before she stepped onto that court. As the backlash grew, a bigger debate started to surface, one that goes beyond just Sabalenka and Gauff. Fans and analysts began asking whether there's a double standard in how male and female players are treated for their behavior. After all, legends like John McEnroe built entire reputations on explosive outbursts, screaming at umpires, and smashing rackets. And people called it passion. Nick Kyrgios has trash-talked opponents, cursed out officials, and even tanked matches, yet he's still cheered for being entertaining. But when a woman shows emotion or steps out of line, she's labeled dramatic or disrespectful. That double standard exists across all sports, not just tennis. Still, many argue Sabalenka's case is different. McEnroe's rage was usually directed at calls or officials. Sabalenka directly diminished an opponent's achievement. And that crosses a line? True champions like Federer and Nadal built their legacies not just on wins, but on respect. They pushed each other to greatness and still gave credit where it was due. That's what fans expect from top players: intense competition without tearing others down. And Sabalenka failed that standard not because she was emotional, but because she disrespected someone who beat her fair and square. What makes this situation even more concerning is that it's not the first time Sabalenka has made questionable remarks after a loss. Those who follow tennis closely know she's built a bit of a reputation for comments that rub people the wrong way, and this incident feels like the breaking point. If it were just a one-time emotional slip, maybe fans and officials could move on. But when it becomes a pattern, it stops being a mistake and starts being part of who you are. That's why the WTA is taking this so seriously, and why her sponsors are reportedly rethinking their partnerships. Adding more fuel to the fire are rumors of leaked audio suggesting Sabalenka made even harsher comments behind closed doors. Whether it's real or just speculation almost doesn't matter anymore, because the damage was already done the moment she disrespected Gauff on record. Now, the future of one of tennis's biggest stars hangs in the balance. Will she learn from this and rebuild her image, or will this be the moment that defines her career for all the wrong reasons? One thing's for sure. The next time Sabalenka and Gauff meet on court, the entire tennis world will be watching, not just for the match, but for the message it sends about respect, rivalry, and redemption in the sport. In the end, this controversy is about far more than just one match or one press conference. It's about what tennis stands for. The sport has always thrived on fierce rivalries, intense competition, and unmatched passion, but it's also built on respect. Coco Gauff earned every point of that victory through skill, resilience, and mental strength, and nothing Sabalenka says can change that. What can change is how she responds now. This could be the moment she takes responsibility, learns, and rebuilds her image, or the moment her legacy is defined by words she'll never be able to take back. The choice is hers. But one thing is clear: the tennis world will remember this incident as a turning point. A reminder that no matter how talented you are, respect for your opponent and for the game itself is non-negotiable. And as fans look ahead to the inevitable rematch between Gauff and Sabalenka, they won't just be watching the scoreboard. They'll be watching to see if true growth and redemption are still possible after one of the most controversial moments of Sabalenka's career.